Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast, and we have got ourselves something that should be a little special here today, as it is going to be another one of these best of threes to really see just how these bots do in a more detailed competition against one another, instead of me just clicking off one-off games. So we've got Xena, one of the most entertaining bots to watch, one of the best bots for series, because it is a random bot, so it plays, well, lots of different strategies. And then we've got Deimos, the Protoss bot. Very, very fun to watch Protoss bot. Not quite bulletproof, but still plays at a very high level, and then goes for a probe scout to see that it is up against a random Terran. That is actually one of the things that does make life difficult for Protoss, playing against a random bot, because you don't know whether you want to go for a low ground wall off or a high ground wall off. I mean, generally bots do stay on one base longer than humans, so usually it is a high ground wall off anyway. But little things like that do affect games. And so, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this one, make sure to go ahead, click that like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below saying more bots if you want to see more of these bot matches. And then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as we put out daily bot videos here on the channel. If you guys want to see any particular bots, particular bot videos, that kind of thing, let me know, and I will do my best to deliver. So let me know if you want to see more of these best of threes, as I certainly enjoy casting them. And let's see how this is going to go. Xena, I believe, is going for a battle cruiser rush, I want to say. I didn't quite catch the start of the game, and it is currently just on one gas, so we'll have to see if it does get that second gas up soon, as we do have both these bots going for an expansion. Xena with just 2 Marines out for now, getting the factory up. No extra gas just yet is a little bit bizarre, but there we go. Finally gets started up for the Terran. I am not an expert at StarCraft 2. I am alright at StarCraft 2, but I do consider myself an expert on battle cruiser rushing. So that is something that I definitely do on the ladder quite a bit. Now, let's see how Deimos is going to handle this. Deimos already has a Stargate on the way, going across the map with one Adept, going to try and shade up. Xena does raise the depots in the face of that poor Adept, so it's not going to get in there. The Marines were pushing out, but now the Adept is actually going to continue to try and shade on into the base, so not really recognizing the danger here. So it looks like it will be caught and killed. Did kill a Marine and injure another one, but all in all, that is a nice gimme. And oh, look at this. Deimos actually canceled its Nexus, notably. So something that it scouted, maybe the quantity of Marines that Xena had, triggered Deimos to say, we gotta be safe. And that's exactly what it's doing here, as it just, yeah, canceling the Nexus is a huge blow to its own economy, but it's one of those logical problems you have to address when you're programming a bot, because there's only so much logic that you can program into a bot without it being over the top or having extreme consequences. Like Deimos, upon seeing all these Marines that Xena has made in the early game, could very well be thinking it is up against a Marine rush. In reality, it's going to be a battle cruiser rush. But yes, there's certain amounts of, you have to set a certain, it's very clearly set in stone, the triggers you have when you program your bot to do something, like to cancel a Nexus. And that's exactly what Deimos has determined it needs to do in this match. Now, that's my guess is based off seeing all those Marines, because it did see an expansion, but nothing else. Now, a Phoenix, well, 2 Phoenix are actually hanging on out. They might find an SCV to lift. Nope, they are just sitting there brain dead, as Xena invests in a 3rd base on location, so being very greedy, but still going for this rush, whereas Deimos is just pumping out as many units as possible off of 1 base. It should eventually expand itself, but it will have to contend with the first battlecruiser. Phoenix flew in. They did see the fusion core, so they may be putting that together, or the bot simply may not have any triggers that it's up against air units at all, or it might just not trigger up until it actually sees an air unit. So we'll have to wait and We'll see for that. Anyway, we do have Marines trying to chase down the Phoenix of Deimos. They have begun lifting up a few units. Another Phoenix is on the way. Deimos is still just chilling out. I really do wonder what the requirements are for it to go for another Nexus at this point in the game, because it's got so many minerals in the bank. As, yes, let's see, one more Phoenix finishes. Was it trying to hit a certain number of Phoenix before expanding? A certain number of supply? We'll have to wait and see. These Phoenix are still doing some work, lifting up whatever they can, grabbing a few Marines. Now, the first battlecruiser is out for Xena. There is no Yamato cannon, which is a bit unfortunate because that's like a guaranteed kill against most Protoss units. It is actually trying to pursue this one Phoenix. Now Yamato cannon, another battlecruiser, does get fired up. Deimos has still paused production, and it's not making anything else. What is it saving its gas for? It seems to be saving up its gas for something else. So, yeah, Deimos, like I said, isn't a bulletproof bot. Like, there is some flaws in its logic. It's playing a nice Phoenix game, keeping those alive, harassing to the absolute max, killing 9 SCVs, 3 Marines. It finally does throw up another Nexus. I have no idea what the condition was for it to do that. It might just be a time thing, like it might be 6 minutes. Let's see, 18 seconds. Okay, so not quite 6 minutes, a little bit before that. And yeah, like on paper, it's easy for me to say that this, why would Deimos cancel the Nexus? It could have had that Nexus done 3 minutes ago, but it's also, it's decisions that bot authors make having effects, and what looks silly in one game may be effective in another one, potentially anyway. Now, we do have Phoenix still flying around, lifting up some Marines, doing a good job avoiding all these units, although their luck at avoiding this may run out as the BCs are closing in on them, but the Phoenix are running. The luck really may run out for those Phoenix once weapon refit finishes up, as they're still just flying around, escaping the threat. This one does have energy to go for a lift, so we'll see when it does that. Looks like it's trying to avoid the threat for now, though. We do have a fleet beacon on the way for Deimos, so getting that tech up. Looks like Deimos is actually getting aggressive with the Stalkers. Pardon me for missing that move out, as the toss is just attacking in. I really expected the toss to be on the defense, something like that. Instead, it's lifting up all the Terran units. The battlecruisers do dump their Yamato cannon, so -3 Protoss units, as 2 more BCs are on the way. And this game is really starting to heat up now, as Xena is taking quite a bit of damage on its side of the map as SCVs are conscripted into the fight. 33 have died. BCs are still flying around. Phoenix are hanging out. Gonna eat a Yamato cannon as soon as that battlecruiser pops out. So very liberal usage of the Yamato cannon, which I definitely do enjoy. These stalkers for Deimos are getting cornered by these battlecruisers. Xena presumably has a retreat threshold. It may force one of those BCs into, but it is definitely costing the Protoss bot lots of units here as it loses, well, pretty much all the stalkers. There is still a few Phoenix flying around up until all these BCs are off Yamato cannon cooldown. Deimos does have a Tempest on the way, though, and that is the makings of countering for mass BCs. And as long as the Phoenix are keeping the battlecruisers a little bit busy, that may be what Deimos needs to stay alive in this game. It is getting up a 3rd base, thankfully much quicker than its 4th base. More production being added on, Stargates, or an extra Stargate on the way, and now Tempest production is going. Xena at the same time, though, has got phenomenal macro. It's a very greedy bot. Despite investing in battlecruisers, losing lots of SCVs, it does have a 4th base up, so that's going to be mules. We hear tactical repositioning. No click, though, just those BCs retreating on home from danger, as there's 1 Tempest out, more Stargates on the way for Deimos. Deimos is heavily bottlenecked by its gas if we look at the mineral bank, so hopefully we will see a 4th base go up sometime soon. And that is one of the things. I do wonder how Deimos ticks in regard to that. Yamato cannon kills a stalker. Tempest are now doing their work to force these BCs away, and they are doing just that. Observer, though, is helping provide some vision. Tempest do not pursue these BCs to the end of the Earth, though, as they do just go home to group up, get repaired. The battlecruisers have enough Yamato cannon to kill all the Tempest, so that could be important. It's really going to depend on the logic and the micro that's been programmed into Xena in this game, as the mass BCs definitely can work versus Tempest. Like, BCs trade okay versus Tempest if they micro correctly. That's why if you actually play versus like a Protoss who's building Tempest and you're building battle cruisers on the ladder, you kind of gotta try and just get Yamato cannons off and retreat, or teleport your BCs onto the Tempest to take them out. Otherwise, they will get that efficiency in the long run. And these Tempest are getting +1 attack. There's 2 being produced at a time, potentially going to be 3 if Deimos ever gets any more gas mining, and we may see that. Nope. Thought that probe was going to build a 4th base. It's just more pylons. The Tempest are moving out to be aggressive now. This could work very well, or it could go absolutely horrendously for the Protoss, as 4 Tempests can just kill these SCVs. But if they eat a bunch of Yamato cannon, it could be very, very bad. There's 1 Yamato cannon getting used. 2, 3 Yamato cannons. That is 1 dead Tempest. Will there be more Yamato cannons? So far, the answer is no, as the rest of these BCs are actually electing to attack, which isn't necessarily a terrible decision, as these other BCs do corner and kill one of the Tempests. They run to the edge of the map and they kind of get trapped. In theory, a Tempest should be able to out-micro these BCs, and it's doing okay for itself, as we do have, what is this, 7 BCs clumped up right now. Deimos does only have 3 BCs, or 3 Tempests to take these on. As Xena pushes across the map, this Tempest really has got its work cut out for it. Xena actually elects to nope on out of there upon seeing all of its opponent's units. These BCs are just being repaired endlessly. They just need to get their confidence in order to charge this Tempest, but again, it's not an easy thing to program against. Units like Tempest that pop in and out of your vision, that pop in and out of your vision, that just retreat as soon as you get near. Once another BC with Yamato cannon comes forward, this Tempest days should be numbered. But let's see, this guy does have Yamato cannon popping off cooldown. Come on, be brave, get in there. But oh, there we go, okay. Yamato cannon. Goodbye, Tempest. Actually, double Yamato cannon, but fortunately that does get refunded because the Tempest was already dead. What do we have now? 7 Tempest against 14 battle cruisers. Notably, Xena is not getting any upgrades for these BCs. So while it is a BC building bot, it isn't getting the upgrades that make them very formidable. So the longer this game goes on, the better it is looking for Deimos, as Xena is just sitting back waiting for some more repair potentially. Although it is only repairing these BCs up to 496 HP. Or around there, anyway. The current BC count is 15 right now for Xena, getting close to that maxed out supply mark. We do finally have an armory on the way, so Xena might just have been prioritizing building the BCs instead of getting those upgrades, but eventually getting those will definitely be nice. We're also getting a factory on the way. I do wonder what the extra factory is for Xena. More starports definitely is good. We actually have Tempest pushing on in once again. Pardon my observing, as I get distracted by the little things. Yamato cannon is going on, hitting some of these Tempests. The BCs are getting that Yamato cannon off before they do actually get shot down by the Tempest, so that is a very big deal, as they can just retreat. Some more of these BCs are pushing across the map, so Xena seems to think that when it's being attacked, it's time to counterattack, which is very aggressive. This BC takes some damage. Marines are doing their best to try and push the Tempest away. They do almost kill one of them. Currently, it is 10 dead Tempests to 0 dead BCs, so things are not going horrible when you look at that metric for Xena. Yamato cannons going to be hitting some of these Tempest again, as these units are just being pushed back. Xena just keeps using the Yamato cannon exactly as it should, teleporting out the injured BCs. It's tough to say. Is there any Yamato cannon left? Yes, there is on some of these BCs at least. So this is just deleting Tempest one by one for Xena, as the BC Rush build seems to be having success so far in this game, even though the win rate wasn't exactly looking the best. Now, battle cruisers are going to push across the map. Deimos has got a very formidable 5 Tempest production. Xena, meanwhile, is approaching maxed out, throwing up more Marine production, which is funny. The Armory has yet to start researching. I'm wondering if that's because it's prioritizing other things. Battle cruisers using Yamato cannon, then retreating away from those Tempest. If Deimos hits maxed out on Tempest, that may just be what it needs to potentially take a fight and kill all these BCs. I do like the few Marines that are in the mix for Xena, and we are actually seeing ship weapons on the way. Xena has yet to invest in a 5th base during this, but it has been spending money on, while building up 20 battle cruisers, which is a very significant amount, but now it's floating more money. It invests in another base. Unfortunately for that SCV, Deimos actually tries to take Xena's base upon killing it, which is just some timing. But look at this, BCs will have their revenge for the gang as they Yamato cannon down most of these Tempests. There's 3 left on barely any HP, so these BCs just got to get on top of them, and they haven't killed them yet. 1 remains. Will a battle cruiser die? No, that BC does survive. And so Xena continues to have this ridiculous cost efficiency against the Tempest of Deimos. More Yamato cannons going down. The Tempest, they just don't have that much damage yet. They do have +2 attack now, so they may be getting closer to actually killing some of these BCs, but the numbers just aren't there. Like, this is how it works. If you attack before you've got maxed out Tempest against maxed out BCs, you will be Yamato cannon to death. Xena also has lower workers, which means it does have more units. The Tempest are putting out lots of damage. We have had 1 BC die now, so maybe that's a potential turning point, as Deimos is producing 6 of these Tempest at a time. So despite losing 27 Tempest, it is almost maxed out on them. Battle cruisers coming in, using Yamato cannon, again, injuring some of these Tempests, but there's a BC getting deleted, as we do have them running off a cooldown. That was a BC for a Tempest. Not the worst trade for Xena, although Deimos does have the better economy, so that is something to consider, as once again this base is being claimed by Deimos, and now the push has begun. It may simply never end, as Xena is actually quite broke, pulling so many SCVs off the line to repair, like pulling all its SCVs off the line to repair, as I guess it's just got so many injured battle cruisers, and now the Tempest are doing their work. The BCs are getting on top of these Tempest, as they do actually move command forward, so good logic to not just be kited to death without trading out, but still, the trades are looking quite good for Deimos. Xena never getting up a 5th base means its economy has suffered, and I think Deimos did hit that critical mass of Tempest with having, oh gosh, how many Nexus? 9 Nexus is just ridiculous. It's even Chrono boosting out the Tempest, which is the icing on top of the cake, just replacing them as soon as they die. Xena definitely over pulling SCVs to repair, may have hurt it a little bit. But yeah, it looks like Deimos will take game number 1 against Xena in this best of 3. So I'll just fast forward to the end here, and then we can load into the next game, see if Xena will potentially strike back or not. Depends what race it gets, I think, is a big question. Although I can see how this BC build definitely wins some of the time. Like, Xena was in a winning position, but just programming that killing logic is a little bit difficult. And then eventually Deimos did get up that great economy, so I am curious what changes in a game that Xena does win. Maps definitely are one big consideration. That is actually something that I am going to try and program into my own bot at some point to really, because a lot of bots take into account build win rates. I think if you take it a step further and take into account maps as far as selecting your build goes, would definitely be something that really helps out. I'm not sure if that's something all bots take into account, but I think it's worth doing. I'll load us into the next game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so here we are in game number 2, and we do have Zerg from Xena, so that's cool, getting a different race. And yes, we've got Deimos in the bottom left taking on Xena. If you guys do enjoy these 2-part or 3-part videos, like best of 3s, click that like button. If we can get 3 likes for the best of 3, that would be amazing. If you do want to support this sort of long-form cast that I do, consider becoming a YouTube member. You can even get your own games cast for at a certain membership level. And yes, it is appreciated, everyone who does that. So, on with the show, as we've got Deimos now sending out a little probe scout, going to be heading over to Xena's side of the map. And if, like last game, Deimos is probably going to want to cancel its Nexus, as we see Xena saying it's planning Zerg build Ling Flood, which might not be great for Deimos. As, yeah, let's see here. Xena getting up that hatchery, getting up the spawning pool. Everything looks normal so far. So a drone is chasing away the scouting probe as well. So who knows? Maybe Deimos won't actually scout this. And that could definitely be a big deal. That is how this Zergling Flood build actually wins against a lot of Protoss. They don't see it coming. Deimos getting up that Cyber Core before potentially building a Nexus. The probe, though, is still scouting out. Has yet to see anything. Zergling Floods are also stronger in this in bot games because speed mining definitely impacts that as well. As, for example, a Protoss that's simply waiting for a tech structure to finish, that doesn't get sped up at all. Whereas the amount of lings and queens that can be built or quicker definitely is sped up simply just by having more resources. So we do have Xena already building these lings. It's up at 19 workers, getting out the 2 queens. I'm curious if it will build any more workers or if it is just going to be lings from this point out. Deimos does have an adept on the way. However, the scouting probe isn't there. And yes, let's see here. Scouting Overlord for Xena. Deimos now sends out the adept. It's going to be 39 seconds until speed is done. But whether Deimos will actually clue into this in time is going to be a big deal. Like, it's about 15 seconds away until it can no longer cancel that Nexus. So we'll see. This adept timing may actually be perfect for Deimos. It's going to be very, very close. 5 seconds until it has to cancel this Nexus. It sees the lings, and it lets the Nexus finish. So Deimos is going to be committed to trying to defend this base potentially. The one adept is shading on in here. Doesn't necessarily get info or set off alarm bells for Deimos. Deimos notably does cancel the Void Ray though, and then throws up a battery and a robo, which is a little bizarre because a Void Ray definitely would have helped in this situation. But clearly the bot authors have some programming in there to cancel the Void Ray, maybe just to get out the other tech quicker. As Xena is now getting ready to attacking the natural with 17 supply. So it takes into account that there is a natural as more and more lings are just being flooded out now. I mean, 20 supply is just about 40 lings, but this is very early lings hitting very hard. One adept is going to want to shade back into Deimos' base, and we'll see whether Deimos can actually get a wall up or not, where it's going to defend. Probes are being pulled into the fight. However, stalkers get nuked. The adepts may do a little bit better against these lings. Probes buffering is a big deal. Pulling back to that battery would also be a very big deal. The probes are just being pulled perfectly to actually buffer against all of these lings of Xena. One adept does get surrounded and killed. The battery doesn't have energy forever. There is one more adept running around. However, Deimos is down to 11 workers, and the ling flood does not stop. This is just constant lings being produced, and so I think we are going to have Xena take this one. Xena now saying transitioning, which is good. It's got that sort of fallback, goes into a Roach Warren, but it's already got 41 lings, and everything of Deimos is dead. In just like 30 seconds, everything got killed, which means we are going to have a game 3 in this best of 3. Which is very cool to see. Hopefully we get like Xena playing Protoss, perhaps. That would be interesting. Or not, because Xena does like the Tempest Rush, and we've seen that lose a few times on the channel, so who knows. Ling's just got to clean everything up, and they will do just that. Xena notably sending out scouting lings, which I do like. GG. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, game number 3. I did not plan this or rig it in any way. I literally just clicked on 3 random Xena replays. So we actually do have the same map as previous, but a different race. And Xena, I'm actually glad to see, is not going for Tempest Rush, because we've seen that have not great success in the past against certain bots that just shut it down. But now we've got a good old dirty PvP between these two. Which bot has the better Protoss? We shall see. And yes, this is cool to see that we did actually get all 3 races played by Xena. Xena maybe outshined a little bit down the line, as there is the new Changeling random bot, which does incorporate Deimos and Eris and Phobos. I'm curious to see, though, whether... Like, I don't think Xena will be outshined as long as Changeling is just those three bots sort of conglomerated. That's the word I'm looking for. As, otherwise it's just sort of basically like seeing a Deimos or a Phobos or an Eris game, where Xena is very, very unique. So I'm curious to see if that's the way the bot goes. Apologies if I had the music off in the last game, if you're still watching, and then clearly it didn't bug you that much. So anyway, we do have double assimilators from Xena. Deimos going for double gas as well. It's PvP, so really one gas, one gate isn't that much of a thing. Xena notably is going for a 3-gate opening and a proxy as well. As we take a look here, there is a single pylon going down, probably going to be a gate. This is one of the oldest StarCraft 2 Protoss rushes in the book, the proxy 4-gate. It's a very, very serious build. Looks like Deimos will actually scout it, though. So that's a darn big deal, but whether it can do anything about it, I'm not sure, as Xena already has 2 stalkers on the way, so it may not be able to shut this down. I'm not sure what this probe is waiting on. As there we go, it does throw down a gateway. Deimos is pulling probes in the face of this. Xena has got 2 stalkers on the way, but they are not done and probably won't be done in time. So kind of like Deimos' response to a proxy pylon anywhere, the probes just took a little bit to get there and start zapping away at this pylon. They are going to kill it, so unless Xena sends out another probe to repower this, that could be problematic. We'll see if it does. Pylon dead, Xena supply blocked. That's a big deal. Do we have a probe running on out to save the day? We do have a probe running on out, and whether it saves the day will remain to be seen. Presently, it is 3 gates to 3 gates, so Deimos did invest in the 3rd gateway, which is cool. It's also got the pylon on the battery on the high ground, so Xena really shouldn't be able to break this location, but there is potential still for it to, say, contain Deimos. Micro can also definitely change things. Maybe Deimos will move down the ramp and get caught out, as Xena notably is just waiting for this pylon to finish, having its 2 stalkers there, rallying out a few more. It is currently 8 stalkers to 4, so while Deimos has gone for a fair few of its own gateways, it hasn't kept up with that production as much. I mean, we see it's invested in an extra battery, an extra pylon, and then the battery as well. That does add up in early StarCraft 2 to the difference of some stalkers. Now, Deimos does have its own warp gate done. It's popping out a few more stalkers. Xena is actually going to go for it and try and break the main. The battery existing for Deimos is going to be huge, as Xena already loses 1 stalker, trying its best to break this location. Targets down the warping in stalker. That is really nice for Xena. Now, Deimos isn't quite fighting on this battery, but it's still taking the better fight, as Xena is retreating more than shooting. But then all of a sudden, Xena does get off a few shots, and Deimos loses quite a few of its stalkers, but then some of them do retreat to the battery. There isn't enough energy, though, for a battery overcharge, so that's unfortunate. A chrono boost on a gateway does mean there's another warpin, but that stalker got targeted down immediately. The present stalker count is 5-3 in the lead for Deimos, so things are looking good for the red Protoss, taking very minimal losses there. Let's look at the actual units lost, 7-15. So that battery and then just the micro made a big difference for Deimos. Xena says attacking the main with 2 supply. It might want to pump the brakes on that a little bit, as if it does just try and push on up this ramp again, it will fail surely. But who knows? Okay, it does decide to go back. Good decision there, Xena, as it would be much better off just pooling up its stalkers, of course. This is just a fairly straightforward, simple, cheesy build. Xena is trying to go up that ramp. It doesn't even change its mind. It is committed to this bit, and it looks like Deimos' cheese defense may have done it well this time, as Xena maybe was delayed a little bit too by having that initial pylon shut down, so maybe that delayed the rush and put Deimos in the very commanding position, as I don't believe Xena really transitions from this build. I think it is wholly committed. Deimos warping in more of its own stalkers, not electing to expand yet or anything like that. And yes, Xena just warping in its own stalkers too. But if we look at the numbers, they don't lie. Like, if there was an upgrade difference, it's like, oh, Xena's got +1, maybe. Xena's got blink, maybe. It's no. It has got 6 stalkers to 15, as we'll see. Unless Deimos has some next level fumble, it shall not lose this game. I do wonder what Xena is waiting for. Like, it went for that weird attack with 4 stalkers. I'm wondering if it remembers how many units the opponent had and then sets that as the next threshold for the attack. As it is going to try going up this ramp though, but that will not work. And so Xena trying to push on up here, kills a warping in stalker. Hey, at least it got a kill, but then it loses like 7 stalkers, and Deimos just absolutely crushes that attack. So it's kind of just a matter of waiting for Deimos to go on in and end Xena. Whether it will or whether it will just defend is a different question. Xena, though, saving up money, bottlenecked by gas. It could, in theory, invest in a Nexus if it wanted to at this point. Okie dokie. Deimos does invest in a Nexus, so just taking its lead and trying to take it even further. Xena does throw up its own Nexus, though, so maybe there's a chance that Deimos will be very passive and let Xena come back into this game. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but that's just somehow that's just sometimes how these bot games go. Like, you have to program your bot for just to have good behavior. That doesn't mean it all of a sudden understands. It just held an all-in or that kind of thing, as that's something that's very difficult to program. Deimos generally is fairly aggressive though, so I don't think it'll be waiting too long before it decides to potentially move out. We saw it move out with the stalkers in the previous match against those BCs. Now an Immortal's also on the way for the red Protoss, so that's quite nice. Xena is just building up more stalkers, and yeah, I get a feeling that's how Xena operates. Maybe it increases the amount of stalkers between each wave, or maybe it does remember how many stalkers it saw that the opponent had before it would decide to try and go on in again. As there is lots of ways you can calculate when to have your bot take a fight. Xena is going to try its luck. It really is not a quitter. 12 stalkers against 20. They're going to need some god tier micro to make this happen. And Deimos is a bot with, well, very good micro of its own. So I'm not sure that's going to work out for Xena. It does get 1 stalker so far. Does it get a second? Yes, it does get a second. And Immortal shooting from the high ground. Might have even got a kill there. Yes, it did. And Xena says, attacking the main with 2 supply. Probably best to hold off there, buddy. As, yes, Xena is having a hard time here. I am going to fast forward in this one. Xena's now going in with 3 stalkers, so it will regret that decision, but it probably will not live to regret that decision. This pylon and gateway are now going to be shut down. I think this one's pretty cut and dry at this point, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this best of 3, though, yeah, click that like button, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, all that good stuff. And yes, Xena attempts to rebuild the pylon and the gateway, potentially, which is very, very funny. Not making any probes or anything like that. Xena is wholly committed to this. Meanwhile, Deimos just keeping it cool. There isn't a reason that you need to rush across the map and kill your opponent like, if you hold a cheese. If you're just going to win the macro game in the long run. Well, Xena tries to go on in again. It's now 14 stalkers against 18, but there's 6 Immortals. It's a nice concave for the blue Protoss. It actually does kill off one of the Immortals, kills off a fair few stalkers. So it's definitely continuously trying to do this, but it will not have the success that it wanted. Like, the trades are not good, but hey, it could have been worse. Could have killed nothing, I guess. Yeah, but as humans, the reason why we rush across the map after holding an all-in is because we don't want to throw the lead. We want to capitalize on it and win the game, because if we do just sit back, there is a chance we will win the game. With bots, I think they're arguably better sitting back. Xena does seemingly outposition Deimos a little bit and does have 5 Stalkers pushing into the natural, unpowering a gateway, as Deimos does eventually have to come back to deal with this. So it's losing some probes. Deimos is, yeah, just needs to come back and shut this down, or just counterattack and go end the game. As Xena, it's not transitioning, it's not getting a Twilight, not getting +1, not building a single extra probe. It is just continuously trying this. The gateway will be found again. Deimos blinks on top of this. So yes, a little bit longer and more drawn out, but I think we will eventually have Deimos take the win at the end. And that is going to be that. Bit of a traffic jam on the ramp, but eventually the units get up there. GG.